Good evening, Patriots. My name is Robert Patrick Lewis. I'm one of the co-founding members of First Amendment Praetorian, a group of military, law enforcement, and intelligence community veterans who provide pro bono intelligence and security services to grassroots events. It's late. I'm tired. We've been on our feet for about 15 hours. I'm at the Forgotten Country Patriot Roundup in Dallas, Texas right now. God bless Texas. I love this place. I am a Texan. I enjoy it every time I'm home. It's a little bit more special, I think, now. We'll get into that in a bit. As I said, I'm tired. We got to be up in a few hours to go back and go at it again, so I'm not going to make this long, but after today I felt like I had to have a real talk. I think there's some stuff that isn't being said enough, that people need to be talking and thinking about. I want to talk about a revolution. If you're singing a Beatles song in your head, get down and give me 10 push-ups, because that's not what we're talking about. But just hearing the term revolution, how many of you started inching towards your mouse or your trackpad to switch it, right? How many of you are worried about the social media censors and zealots that are immediately hearing that? If I was Antifa or Sunrise Movement or BLM or any of these other groups that mention the nasty R revolution word, perfectly fine. They'd get funding from George Soros and plenty of leftist organizations, full overlooked FBI, DHS, nobody would really care about it. But somebody that's, anybody that is a patriotic American mentioning the revolution word, all of a sudden it's a bad word. It gets plenty of red flags that go off, and plenty of you that probably get scared just for watching a video that mentions that. But I want to talk about what that word really means and what's going on right now in this country and what you're seeing all around us, and what I think each of us can do to take part in this. So the first American Revolution, we threw off the shackles of tyranny from somebody overseas that was giving us taxation without representation, a lot of unfair practices, a lot of rules and regulations that our forefathers that came to this country did not agree with. And looking at the history yourself, there are a lot of different things besides what we know about, but the Boston Tea Party, things like that are very kind of famous things that we all know about. That was our throwing off the shackles that our forefathers were previously under. That was an armed revolution. That was a kinetic revolution. I was a Green Beret, so I've been in places that were war-torn hellholes all around the world that were the product of kinetic, violent revolutions. That's a terrible thing. Once you open Pandora's box to that type of violent revolution, there's no going back. It's ugly. There is no clean kinetic violent revolution. There just isn't. It's ugly, it's chaos, it's painful. But that, Green Berets, we are masters of chaos. That's the place that we operate within. We are perfectly fine within it, we are comfortable within it, and we make the best use of it, and we are the masters of it. But that's not what we're talking about. There are a lot of people talking about it, and the word Civil War, the revolution word, gets thrown around a lot, but I think you need to understand that, when we talk about this, when I'm using this word, I don't mean it in the way that Antifa means it, or all these entitled 25-year-old college kids and PhDs that are the kids of professors that are just throwing out that word because they want to watch the world burn, because they're upset that their parents didn't pay enough attention to them, or they've never had anything to fight against, and they feel like they've got to fight against something, and the TV told them who to be mad at, so they just want to burn everything down. And of course, everybody's a Nazi that doesn't see things their way. But there's other things that we use in common vernacular that are revolutionary. Medical revolution, education, technology revolution, all kinds of revolutions that are revolutionary changes in society. The way that we do things, the things that we use, everything in our life. Revolutionary. All of life, the fact that I can turn a light on the desk here and I can record a video and upload it. Revolutionary. Very different. It's a different way of things being done. It's a different way of seeing things. It's a different modus operandi. And we're in the middle of a revolution right now. First American Revolution, kinetic, violent, nasty. General Flynn was talking this morning, afternoon, sometime, it's all a big blur, about 650,000 people that died in the American Civil War. That's a scary word, right? That's a scary number, right? Revolutions, civil wars, things like that are always nasty. That's more people than have died in all of our other wars combined. More American citizens. That's a pretty scary thing. But revolution is also just another way of seeing things and doing things. That first revolution was planned in bars and taverns by our forefathers who decided that they were sick of it. So now when people decided that they were going to throw their own revolution and take over this country, they shut down the bars, they shut down the taverns, they censored our communication on social media. I'm sure this is going to be censored, so I hope this can get out there just because I think it's something that people need to marinate on for a little bit. They shut down every method of communication that we had. They kept us away from each other. They kept humankind, our society, away from actually being able to connect and talk with each other. Maybe it was for fear that we might decide to push back because they knew the authoritarian bent that this all would be seen as, that this would be taking. Maybe there's some other reason that they decided to lock everything down, but we know it's not a virus with a 99.999% survival rate, right? It's never been done in human history. We know that the videos that we saw of people falling down in the middle of the street in China never happened here, right? It's kind of weird. It's like it was all make-believe to make it more palatable that we did it here. But the byproduct, and we're seeing this all around us now, and I talked to a lot of people about this today, is that people are getting very upset very quickly. It's like most of our society is a rubber band that's been pulled so tightly it's about to snap. It's for a lot of different reasons. A lot of us are very upset with the things that we see going on in our country, if we care about this country. Again, people like me, all of us are patriotic citizens, don't want to see the country burn. Last thing in the world that we see that's the trajectory that we're on. It's getting there. People keep pushing and pushing and pushing against things and passing red lines one after another, things that we know, that they know, that we won't abide by. And people are getting very stressed out and very angry. And those words are getting thrown out a lot. Civil war, revolution. I think we are in the midst of a revolution, but it's not kinetic. It's a different way of seeing things, and we need to transition that into a different way of operating. I believe this transition is people's eyes being opened. It's things that some of us have been trying to tell you for a decade was coming, and we were labeled crazy conspiracy theorists. There were some of us who, from whatever backgrounds we have, whether it be military or people that just pay attention to things or see the world a little bit differently, saw this is coming for a long time, and we tried to warn everybody. But it's the same things that we've been talking about that are actually happening, that are coming to fruition, that now those people that would hear it and just blow that off as crazy talk, our talk of the sliding scale, all these things where we knew that radicals would start demanding one thing. No smoking in public is a great example, right? It went from no smoking inside of a restaurant. Oh, that's it. That's all they want. Give them an inch. No smoking near a restaurant. No smoking within 50 feet of a building, right? Smoking's bad for you. We know that, and there are numerous examples where there are certain groups. You give them an inch, and they're going to push and push and push and push. And we've been warning about that. But now people are finally listening, right? So what has happened in our country over the last several months? November, where people saw with their eyes exactly what happened, and we're being told, don't believe your lying eyes. We're being told people that have nothing to worry about, people that did everything above board, that won everything fair and square, they just happen to be sending an army of lawyers and fighting tooth and nail against every audit. Maricopa, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Windham, New Hampshire, fighting with all their might and their legions of lawyers, but everything was above board. They're just doing that because that's the normal way of business. People see that. People are finally waking up. People that didn't ask any questions, that just completely wrote off us crazy people talking about this a decade ago, are finally opening their eyes, and they're looking at it, and they're understanding, and they're asking questions. And they're taking a look at the way that our government works. And thank God there's a lot of people that listen to Dan Schultz and the Precinct Project, and they're taking over their local political party at the grassroots level. And we're starting to see this machine fight back, as we saw with Linwood in Georgia, trying to change the rules, trying to not abide by their own rules because they don't want to let go of that grip on power. And it's not a Democrat versus Republican thing, right? There are fights going on within the establishment on both sides all over the aisle. So it's political, but it's not in the paradigm that we're being led to believe that it's in. It's wholesale. It's people all across the spectrum. One of the guys leading the audit in Maricopa is a Bernie Sanders supporter. That he doesn't care about the politics. He just cares that it's a fair fight. He just cares that the vote is done correctly and it's fair. Whatever the outcome is, it's the outcome, as long as it's the will of the people. And I think we should all start looking at things like that. And I think a lot of us do, but there's definitely a section that does not. There's a section of our society that only cares about power. And that's it. End of story. They'll be on, who cares what side of the aisle they're on? All they want is power. Money is a function of power to them, so that's, all the same thing. Same. But these people have finally pushed so hard that they've woken the populace up. And the populace is starting to believe that the things that they thought, the way that they thought they knew things worked, is not the case at all. That there's a shadow underbelly to all of our society. That politics is not the clean animal they thought it was, that it's really as dirty as people have said, that there are people out there that are willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get said power, especially the power to control the most powerful nation in the world, the nation that we love so dearly. And I believe the revolution that we're in is this new revolutionary way of thinking, where people no longer just take what they're being sold. They're asking questions, their eyes are open, and they're questioning things that they say in the media that strain credulity. They're sick of the lockdowns. They're finally turning the cannons around on Mr. Murder Garden Fauci. And some of us told you a year ago, don't trust that guy. But hey, we're here because we're in the first steps of revolution. If you've never read the book, The Fourth Turning, had a lot of conversations about that. And there's some very interesting things that leads to what history could show us what comes next. Not what comes next, but on the macro sense, not how we get there, but what it is. And it's revolutionary. There has to be a massive society shifting change in order for us to get past this fourth turning and get into what should be hopefully a better part of history. But we have some ugly stuff to get past first. But this revolution is requiring us to talk to each other, to have human-to-human contact, to understand what's going on, and actually to talk to people again. And that's, again, a big problem with people who are stretched like that rubber band. They're wound around the axle. We haven't been doing what humans are supposed to do. Face-to-face contact, see people's faces, being actually able to read people's expressions, smiling at each other. You know how long it's been since a lot of people in this country have seen a smile? There's people that are still masked up, that are still double masking now. We're in Texas for this event. Haven't had to see a mask since we got out of the airport. It's a beautiful thing. State of Texas, state of Florida, states around the country are completely open. And it's not massive. It's not burning in flames like the media would have you believe. People are fine. There's actually lower death rates and infection rates here than in New York and other places that are completely masked up. And there are people that just don't want to believe that, right? So they're getting left behind in the revolution. They're fine. We've lost them. That's great. But for those of us that are already in this part, we are in the new revolutionary way of thinking. We see things as they are. We have seen behind the curtain. We understand all the dark underbelly that we've allowed to go on in our society. And we need to stop it. And again, I'm not talking about kinetic revolution. That's a variable. Looking at the decision tree, there's a potential that we go there. And I am telling you as a guy that has been to war-torn nations, we don't want to go there. You love this country. You don't want it to burn. And we don't want to have a hand in being any part of that process that makes it happen. But we can't allow things to continue the way they are, the way they were. Again, our eyes have been opened now that we've seen things for what they are. We understand just how dark things are and just how little we understood about the way things worked. Some people did, most didn't. We just went along our happy lives. You got your family, you got your white picket fence, you got your job, you got your car, you got your friends, and that's it. And then a lot of that got taken away. And that was required for us to open our eyes and really see. And there were some massive, disgusting things that had to happen for our eyes to be truly opened on a massive scale. And now they have. So we see things differently. We are in the midst of a revolution. So the question is, are you going to take part in that? And again, I'm not saying people have to pick up guns, throw Molotov cocktails. That's theirs. Let them do that. That's not our thing. Again, we don't want to see the country burn. But we can't just sit by and watch this happen like we used to. So what do? Well, again, the first American Revolution was planned and formed in bars, taverns, and churches. Those are closed in a lot of places around the country. But you know what's not? These types of events that we're at right now. And I've harped on this before, and I'm going to keep doing it until every one of you watching these videos and listens go. Because they're happening all around the country. Towards the end of last year, we did over a dozen. In the last quarter of last year, First Amendment Praetorian did over a dozen of these in D.C. alone. And that's great, because there were huge amounts of people, Million MAGA March, all these different things that we went, where D.C. was just flooded with people, and that's great. But not everybody can get to D.C. And that's the thing about a revolution. It can't be a microcosm. It's got to be full society-wide. It's got to be a major shift in our society. And people have seen that, and they're changing that, right? So we're at an event in Dallas right now. There was another one in Tulsa, Oklahoma not too long ago. We've got event organizers that are planning them all across the country. Of course, Free America, Florida. We got a bunch of them in Florida. Several in Missouri. We got asked to do another one up there in Missouri. Great. They're happening all around the country. A lot of you may have lost your job. COVID, economy, it's done terrible things for everybody. Well, COVID didn't do it. Politicians did it. Dr. Fauci and that's another discussion for another time. Again, we're opening our eyes so we can all start to see it finally. But those of you who couldn't travel to D.C., you had an excuse. You couldn't take part. You can't get your voice out in social media because they're censoring everything from anybody who loves America or anything is from anybody from the middle of the road. You couldn't get out to D.C. because you lost your job, travel. Maybe you were scared to travel, difficult to get on an airplane, whatever. But now these events are starting to be planned all around the country. We have an event organizer that is planning a 25-city bus tour all around the country next year. We're taking part in Bard's Fest. They're expecting 500,000 people out there in Missouri. I did the Advon. Went out and recon the place a couple weeks ago. Beautiful. Beautiful. Plenty of room. It's going to be a very family-friendly event. And there are a lot of these popping up now around the country. What does that mean? It means you don't have an excuse anymore. It's going to be somewhere near you. There will be one or more. The people that are doing this event, all people that are doing other events, they're starting to take the show on the road. They're going to start going around the country. They're bringing the bars and taverns and churches to you. Again, we're not talking about planning a kinetic war. We're talking about getting people together to talk. People who are like-minded people, whose eyes have been opened, who are a part of this revolution, or who have been questioning what's going on. Their eyes are starting to open up. They're not quite there, but they got questions. Well, guess what? Those questions aren't going to get answered on social media when everything is censored and shadow banned. You've got to go. You've got to go and get some human-to-human contact. You've got to go out and actually see people at these events and commune with each other and talk to each other and do what humans, social creatures, are supposed to do. And go talk to people and go listen to people and talk to other people that their eyes are also starting to be open and converse and do what we used to do. Maybe you don't agree on something. That doesn't mean you have to fight, try to blow each other up. Talk it out. That's what we do. That's what a civilized society do. And they're taking the civilized part out of our society. And we need to change that. Again, we're in the middle of a revolution that is different than any revolution that has ever existed before. And it's a revolution back to civility. It's a revolution opening our eyes and just allowing people to see things the way that they are. And that's the only way that we take this country back. You want to know what a problem is, you got to be honest about it. You got to be upfront about it. You got to be able to fully know the battlefield before you can do anything. And that's where we are right now. Those of you whose eyes are already completely open, help those whose aren't. Don't yell at them. Don't get mad at them. Understand. You know, most of us, most of you were there at some point where we believed what we were told and did not understand just how bad things had gotten. But that's how we do it. Take friends, takes family. We've got to go and actually go and meet in person again. And these events are a great way to do it. and I'm not endorsing any one event. The one that we're at is fantastic, but it's already too late. If you're not here already, you don't have tickets, you're not registered, they're not selling them anymore. There's a lot of different events that we're going to be at. If you don't know any one place to go, our website, First Amendment Praetorian, we're listing all the future events that we'll be at. So that's a great way. We'll have hyperlinks. You can link and go show them. You can find one that you'll be at. Again, 25 city bus tour next year. Probably have a lot before this year is over. We got 6 in the next few months. So you're losing your excuses. And that's the question. Do you want to take part in this revolution of awakening, of eyes being opened, or do you want to get left behind? Imagine how great it'll be to tell your kids one day. I have my own. And that's one thing that I look for. I wrote my first book about my time in Special Forces. The whole point of writing that was so when the marbles stopped bouncing around up there, I would have a record of what Dad and his friends did. So when this is all done, when this is over, because it will be over at some point, and it's either going to be total annihilation and we're going to let this country fall and our kids will never know freedom, or you take part in the revolution and we all band together and we all do what has to be done, and we get to tell our kids one day what we did, the part that we played in the Second American Revolution. So again, the choice is yours. You're running out of excuses. There's going to be one of these in your area soon. They're all going to be a lot closer to D.C. And hey man, I know it's a big country. There's a lot of space, and there's going to be one near you soon. So go, be with other people that see things like you see, that have their eyes completely open. Some their eyes that are starting to open, because they're taking away every other opportunity we have to do that. They can't take away those. There are states that are not going to close back down. And so that's the opportunity. That's why these are in Florida and Texas and a lot of these places that their eyes have also been open. They have state leadership that's not going along with the program anymore. And that's great. We need more of those. So I promised that this wouldn't be that long. I'm going to go and cut it off. I'm tired. I got to get some sleep. But again, we're in the middle of it. Revolutions aren't always kinetic. Revolution is a change in the way we do things or see things. And right now, people's eyes are being opened. And we need to help them open all the way. And we need to make sure we're together on this. There are more of us than them, by a lot. All we have to do is have our eyes open and realize that we're not going to play this game anymore. And guess what? We don't have to play this game anymore. So stop it. But for us to do that, it's going to require us all to be on the same page. I can't tell you, so what the FBI and DOJ is doing and trying to lock up anybody who speaks out or steps up or does that, they're having their intended consequence. There's a lot of people that say, well, unless we all get together, they'll arrest whoever goes first. If we are all together, there aren't enough jail cells in the country, especially to try to arrest people on trumped-up charges for just being a patriotic citizens, for standing up and speaking their mind. It's the First Amendment. As long as we still have a Constitution, that's the first one. It's important. Stand up, say what you believe in, go to these events, get with other like-minded Americans. Do what you can do. Take your part in the revolution, and let's take our country back. No shots fired, just Americans speaking their voice and getting to know each other again. That's the best way to do it. Again, you can go to our website. If you don't have any other resources to find where events are, we will have at least the ones that we'll be at, 1apraetorian.com. Also, if you support our group, we are a group of military, law enforcement, and intelligence community vets. We go around to these events around the country, and we make sure people can be safe. There are groups out there that are trying to intimidate and use violence to silence Americans with dissenting opinions. And that is the most un-American thing that there is. Amidst a sea of un-American things that we're seeing going on right now, that right there is disgusting, and we refuse to let it happen. If you support that, you can donate. All of our stuff goes through a patriotic tech entrepreneur, nowhere in Silicon Valley. Everything is completely safe. You can also find our events. If you want to join our team, if you have that background, military, law enforcement, or intelligence, you can begin our vetting process. And again, we have a past and future events page on there. We'll start putting hyperlinks for all the different events that we get booked to go to. So if you have no other resource out there to find what events are coming up, and maybe you're curious and maybe you're saying, well, you know what, I do want to take part in this. I don't want to let this all go by without me having a hand in doing something to take our country back. Have a look. Doesn't have to be our website. There's plenty of them out there. There are still some that are getting by on social media, but it's It's choppy. It's a tough game out there, but there's plenty of other resources. But you've got to take the first step. Decide that you want to. Decide you want your eyes all the way open. It's like the Matrix. Some people will fight you to stay asleep. What about you? Make that decision. If you want to be a part of this, if you're sick of being locked up in your house, if you're sick of seeing friends and family, still terrified of what you know is complete BS, come out to one of these. Get with other like-minded people and let's figure out what we can do, because we got to do it together. But if we do it together, we're unstoppable. So let's